Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, wherever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Post-Conference Presser for Anfield Index. It's just over 24 hours out before the Reds visit Villa Park. A tough away fixture, a fixture that means a lot in the context of the title race. 3 precious points are up for grab. For the first time, the Reds will actually be a game ahead of Arsenal, their only real title rival. So it feels like there's a lot riding on this, doesn't it? And you could sense, if anyone watched the press conference, Arne had a business element, I would say, to him, the way he set up about him. That's how I'd punctuate this conversation. Focused, business-like, so much to like. I'm your normal host, Dave Davis, coming to you from the heating's on. I've got a big jumper on, and there's sleet coming out the window in Edinburgh. So hopefully it's a bit nicer wherever you are in the world. Whether you're on the drive time home, whether it's the morning, if you're on the other side of the world, fingers crossed your day is still a good one, even if it's pretty much near its end. We'll do the normal that we do. So we'll talk about the Q&As. Arne was asked, the answers that he gave. We'll talk about a bit of a revisit to Wolves and the lessons we learned from that. Maybe there's a few need to be learned from all parties. We'll talk about the threats that Villa bring, and there certainly are threats, no two ways about it. And then I'll give my predictions. I always do, line up, score, and scorers, where I'm actually batting about 66%, which, 2 out of 3 I'm getting right at the moment. So I'll take that as opposed to last season's 30 or 40. So we'll roll with that. But let's get into it and let's set the scene for this press conference. Quite a few questions asked of Arne Slot. Have I actually shortened it down for you? I've got to be honest, because I think there's certain things you won't really be too fussed about hearing. So just the sort of key call outs, I would say, from this press conference. I mean, it still looks beautiful when you sit the context. 7 points clear, level on games with everything else. 13 games to go. It looks good, doesn't it? But let's get into it. What were the questions he was asked? What answers did he give? He was asked about, this being the biggest week in the context of the title race. So what did Arne Slot say? He said, I see it as 13 games to be played and the next game being the most important one, starting with Villa away, which is like Wolves at home. Again, a difficult game for us, but for everyone as well. They have a great home record, maybe even more if they play in the evening. So we know that it's going to be a challenge. But we have quite an okay away record as well this season. We've done quite okay this season in general. So it's a game, I think, for everyone to look forward to see these two sides playing against each other. I like he's gone back to this. I have to be honest about that. And maybe we're all a little bit guilty of it. We've been getting carried away a bit, haven't we, with the next 3 in a row and big weeks, like the journalist asked, because you're already thinking Villa away, City is 4 points good enough? Do I want 6 points? What is minimum? It's massive to get ahead, but then as in we're looking at the next batch of games. As all the Liverpool teams that have done in recent seasons and history that have been successful, 1 game at a time. That is absolutely what it's about. And I like he's got that focus. Full focus is just on Aston Villa at home. As he's also said there as well, Villa, strange, I hadn't really picked up on this until he mentioned it. But if you look at their record in the evening kickoffs, they're actually better than sort of their 3 p.m s, their Super Sundays that they've had, the various games. Now, some of those games on TV in the earlier, like are Arsenal away and tougher games, you could argue. But Villa Park, Holt End under the lights, this needs a lot of focus. So I like the way he answered this. Then he also got asked about nervy finishes and, games. Is it going to be the tension creeping in? And obviously referenced Anfield as well. He said, I think it's because we're coming to the end of the season and not because of us, but because of what others make of it. Because we've played more games at home or away that we've led by 1 goal. And in the end, it was also tight. So I can remember Crystal Palace away where it was really tight in the end and Yaros had to make a big save to secure the win. And we didn't even need a big save now to secure the win. And he meant that against Wolves. If then this happens at the end of the season, you guys are going to talk about nerves. But to secure a win in the Premier League, if you're only leading by 1 goal, there's always going to be a lot of defending and a lot of hard work. During large parts of the season, it's just about hard work. And at the end part of the season, we talk about nerves. Not me, but a lot of people around us talk about nerves. Yeah, I think that's fair. There is a tension. You could feel it on Sunday at Anfield creeping in, couldn't you? You could see the crowd was nervous. Even afterwards, you saw Arne doing his, arm wave to the crowd, trying to come on, we need you to play your part. Robbo also, not always sure it's best advised, but gesticulating to the crowd on a couple of occasions. So, yeah, there is nerves and there is tension. It's natural. We're in a title race. And let's be honest, we want this so bad. Most of us would sell a kidney. You really would to win this title. It is so. It just feels like you can almost taste it, doesn't it? But you've also got the things about the big games we've got. What could go wrong? Are the side looking tired? All those permutations that are going around in your brain. But there's 7 home games left to go at Anfield. And we can play a part in all those by just make it an absolute horrible place for away sides. Yeah, it's been done before. You've seen it in that run when Brighton, Chelsea, Slots commented that's the real Anfield. It just feels like, aside from all the nerves, that is something we could do. But we'll see what the next few games bring forward. There was a bit of injury news. Nothing unexpected, I don't believe, for most of you, but let's just play and see what Arne Slot said here.
Cody Gakpo, how are they? What's the latest?
I think both are not available for tomorrow. Cody is close to being back, and Joe will take quite a long time. He's going to be out for numerous weeks because of a hamstring injury.
Big blow for Joe.
Yeah, and for us.
Yeah, how's he feeling with it?
For him, because he tries to do everything to be with the team. He worked really hard to come back, and then first game when he came back, after 2 or 3 minutes, we saw him making a sprint, and now he's out for weeks again. So, yeah, that's always very hard for a player in every part of the season, let alone in the part of the season where everybody's looking forward to.
Yeah, it seems that, as we say, may need an operation, Joe Gomez. It almost feels with that, who knows, but it may be a bit of a surprise if he is back before the end of the season. And you just wonder with Joe Gomez, especially the way the left-back position has fared, would he have got some minutes there? I wouldn't have minded seeing him. I don't think many others would have at the same time, because Tsimikas and Robertson, there's big question marks around them, isn't there? But they'll be relied upon. And even now, it's another centre defender out the mix, and people wanted one, didn't they? A lot of people did, understandably, in the January window. But it is what it is. Maybe it's not a silver lining. Maybe that is too strong. But there is good news, it seems, that Cody Gakpo is close. So we've not ruled Cody Gakpo out of City yet, have we? It'd be massive if we could, bring that in. Ken commenting there, Bradley seems more suited to Slot's system. It is one we'll talk about, Ken, actually, when we go to the section about lineups. It is a big deciding factor. And I know you're mentioning it there, but yeah, I'm still swithering on it. We'll see what I get to when that comes up. But yeah, feel free to like. It's great to get those like buttons, subscribe. Feel free to chuck your comments in. We'll always talk through them at the same time as well. So that was when he talked about the injury news. Other player updates. There was a little bit on Diogo Jota I just want to play you as well. So let's have a look. We got that from our AI correspondent who was there.
The number 9 that played in the first 7 or 8 games, every single game, almost for 3 or 4 months. But now he's back, and he played 60. And with these amount of games we play now, you don't expect him to play 90 in the upcoming 3. But he will be involved in hopefully all the 3 games, and hopefully with a lot of minutes as well.
Involved in all the 3. Definitely, I don't think anyone expected with Jota 90 in the next 3 by any means. But since he's come back, Diogo Jota, I mean, I think he's brilliant. There's a beauty to the way he does the ugly stuff. And even the Wolves game, you saw some good link for the first goal, didn't you? Well, we won't talk about what was a dive, really, for the penalty that was then taken away. But it would be great if Jota came to the party. I still don't know if he's going to get the nod for tomorrow night. I still don't sit here with confidence and say this will be the starting 9. And yeah, RFC there saying he thinks Jota left wing, Nunes striker, Diaz has played a lot of minutes recently. Still sort of swithering over, but we'll get to it soon enough when we talk about lineup. But it was good to hear Slot sort of give it a bit of an insight. I wouldn't bank on Jota being the number 9, but we'll talk about that shortly. What I also liked, and this is the other bit of the press conference I want to pull out for you, Endo. There's a lot of Endo love going around at the moment, and it is good to see. He was asked about him and the impact he's had. So let's just have a listen to this short clip.
Player that came on Sunday and did really well in achieving that was Taro Endo, and that was only his 4th game of the season in the Premier League, where he's played more than 10 minutes, excluding stoppage time as well. Just wondering, how crucial do you see someone like him being in terms of seeing out games towards the end of the season when, as you say, it could be so tight?
I think Wata has been really useful for us this season. And, it's not always a matter of how many minutes you play. You can be very important in 2 minutes, and you can be less important in 90 minutes. But what makes Wata special, in my opinion, is every time we have to rely on him, if it's 5, 10 or 20 or 25 minutes.
It almost feels, in the nicest way, like a bit of a backhanded compliment somewhat there. And RFC saying, yeah, Endo should have been used more. I think a lot of us wanted to see him come on against Everton, especially when they were just pumping it long in the last few minutes, although they did that for most of the game. Yeah, it is crucial when he comes on. There's no doubts about that. We've seen the impact he's had in pretty much all the games he's come on. And even when he started in the Carabao, I didn't think he shamed himself against Plymouth. There was a lot that disappointed, but not him that day. And against Wolves, he was brilliant in that, 19, 20-minute cameo, made a few interceptions. And how Simon Hooper gave a free kick against him when Kuna just batters into him, I have absolutely no idea whatsoever. But that is by the by. Endo has been really good. But the way Slot says it, you can be crucial for 2 minutes. And when we have to use him, I don't think it's anything we don't know, but it's quite clear Arne Slot doesn't really fancy Endo. And he's praised him in the sense of, when I have to use you, you're doing well, and we appreciate that. But the key term, I think, is there, which is a bit of a shame, when I have to use you. It also tells me I don't really think we'll be seeing too much more of Endo unless he feels that he absolutely has to. But we'll see what develops on this one, ladies and gents. So going back to the last game, that Wolves won 2-1, because we always like to talk about the lessons we've learned. As much as we just mentioned Endo and a bit unsure about what Arne Slot said, praise be to the second string, Praise be to Baby Jesus and Baby Moses for the efforts of the second string on Sunday. The likes of Connor Bradley, Endo coming on, Kwanzaa, how good was he second half? It did show that even if their minutes are limited, there is still a squad player there, or a couple of squad players there that can make a difference. I know a lot of people have been saying this, but, it shows the lack of depth of the squad. You can't have it both ways. You can't say Kwanzaa comes on and does well. You can't say Endo comes on and does well. You can't say Bradley comes on and does well, and then say there's no depth. The two don't really tally. Yes, I don't want to rehash the January window. We've all would have liked another player, but I just think you need to balance it in that context. It is so, so important. The other thing I took from the Wolves game, at the Premier League top level, you just cannot switch off. We're 2-0 up at half time, and that whole game had a feeling of, how would I put this? Going to be a routine win. We're going to be talking about garbage time. We're going to be thinking, can we take Salah off, or players like that after an hour? And we almost didn't see them come out for the second half. And we especially didn't really see the crowd either come out for the second half. And I've heard this on a few pods that people say, oh, the crowd have got to respond, and what's on the pitch. And I get all that. But just with 7 home games left to go, let's all respond. Let's help drag them at times. They might well need it. Is that not worth it to win a league title if we could inspire, the team on to greater things, even when they are looking a bit tired? I just don't understand why that is such a big issue. That the atmosphere at Anfield, I would love just for that to be a non-question, if that makes sense. That the next game, which is Newcastle, isn't it, under the lights, the next home game after Villa, after City, it was just like, that was brilliant. Back to normal. It's a non-event almost discussion. That is what I'd want to hear. Yeah, I think RFC there says players got comfortable and crowd starting getting nervous. You could feel the nerves transmitting. I understand why there's nerves, but we've got to play a part in that as well. The only other small thing, and I don't want to sort of say it as a blanket because I just don't know yet. I really don't. They are looking a bit tired, especially that midfield. It just looked like his legs had almost gone, hadn't they, second half, that they just running in treacles, some of them. They just couldn't move. It would be good, maybe a little bit of rotation, and I'll come to that in this one. But yeah, it is a small worry. Hopefully it disappears quickly, but I think a lot of people have just clocked career high minutes. Is there just a tipping off the edge a little bit? We're hoping it's not true. I'm hoping, again, it becomes a non-entity. But I understand why people are referencing the Wolves game as an example of that. But there we go. We'll see what it brings. And so we have to turn to Aston Villa. Now, a team with real attacking threats. There's no two ways about it. Did a bit of interesting business, didn't they? Duran went for big money. In comes Marcus Rashford on loan. In comes Marcus Asensio on loan from United and PSG, respectively. Now, I'm intrigued to see how they do. Don't get me wrong. I want them to have stinkers on tomorrow night, on Wednesday night. But I am a big fan of Marcus Rashford for all he did with this school meals and, all those things for charity. I think that's absolutely brilliant. And it does make me laugh when United legends or their people are panning him and saying, his attitude stinks. What? His attitude stinks because he's helping kids get free school meals. He's at a poisonous club. Should he have an attitude like Ryan Giggs playing around with his brother's wife? Should he have an attitude like Paul Scholes and the toenails of your daughter in the gob? How bad was that? Let's be honest. Should he have an attitude like Wayne Rooney? Grandma's. Yeah, do you know what I mean in that regard? It's just, I have actually got a bit of a soft spot for Marcus Rashford, but naturally, I hope he tanks in this one. And when we talk about their threats, there is goals on this side. There's some good players. Ollie Watkins, people will say he's the danger man, and he's got goals, no two ways about it. There's so much to like about him as a player. Morgan Rogers is one I really like. Just that power running, the ability to batter off midfielders and drive at the defence. The likes of Grav and Mack have really got to be on it, I think, tomorrow. He is the one for me to watch. There's good players. They are a good side. The only thing I would say is a couple of things when you look at the form table. They've not won in their last 4. Now, one of those was Arsenal away. So they came back from 2 down. You can see that was good. But I think Arsenal more just threw that away. They were well dominant and they just stopped playing. 1-1 at home against West Ham. Not really a great result when you consider that. Lost away against Wolves, who gave us a tough game. There's something about Wolves to almost defy where they sit in the table. And this one, the home game recently, Ipswich. We know where Ipswich are in the table, and they've got 10 men, or they had, 10 men on Saturday, Ipswich as well. So they're not on a good run. It's also worth mentioning that Villa has to have this game moved, didn't they? They faced a run of 5 games in 14 days, which, and then I think they have 1 game, bizarrely, in March, and obviously their Champions League playoffs, so 3 in total. So you just wonder if that's playing on the mind as well. The other things to know, and we never wish players ill, don't get me wrong, but when you think of who's out for them, Pau Torres, pretty much, I don't know if he's out for the season. We know he's out for this one. This is a big loss. Kamara, he is so crucial. So important to what Villa did, and he limped off on Saturday, so he's going to miss this game. So I suspect it's going to be Maybe Mings coming in alongside Concert, possibility of Dizazi, I suppose, but it's a big jump for that. Either way, it's not what they'd want, I'm sure. Their injuries are just starting to mount up for them. But Kamara being out, in the nicest way, is a bit of a boost for us. Other threats that they bring, I mean, if you look at their form table, that's the point. They concede a lot of goals. Look at that, 38 goals. They have shipped a lot, more than Spurs, same as Brighton, who've been getting hammered recently for the amount they're shipping. And actually, if you look, they're about 15th and 16th in the table around goals conceded. So there is heart for Liverpool there, is what I'm saying. They are a threat. This game has massive banana skin potential. The whole end will be looking for any excuse to be riled and come into the party. So this is not an easy game by any means, but there are certain things to consider, and why Liverpool, you can just see they're starting to slip down a bit as well. Is it a Villa tipping over the edge of tiredness? That is something to consider in our record at Villa Park. Yeah, or FC, just mentioned there. We have a history of late winners, don't we, or late goals there as well. Don't want to leave it that way, but we'll just take 3 points with no injuries any way we can get it in this one. Which brings us to the final point, ladies and gents, the lineup, score, and scorers. Now, I've been swithering on a few things, but, you know, as the saying goes, shit or get off the pot. So we've got to make some calls. I mean, it's Alisson, it's Van Dijk, and Konate. They have got to start for me. And there was a few commented earlier, so feel free to throw in who you believe should be starting. If it was me, Tsimikas would definitely be left back. And I would give Conor Bradley the nod. Just fresh legs. The Up Boys pointed this out, that Trent's in that tipping point of the season where it usually is about now. He starts to get into that, I'm probably getting this wrong in my phrasing, but red zone concerns. And he's just had a few knocks, isn't it? So Bradley is fresh. Tsimikas, I mean, God bless Andy Robbo for all he's done, but you saw what Quansah had to do, didn't you? That block the other day. How deep was Robertson for that? It would have been his fault ultimately. It's just not a good game again from Andy Robertson. So that would be it for me. Tsimikas and Bradley, freshness at left back. That would be, and right back, sorry, that would be the big thing. The midfield decision. The midfield looked like they tipped off the edge a little bit as well for me. So they look tired. I think you have to start Curtis Jones in this one. I really do, for some semblance of control as well. So for me, it's Grav and Mac. It doesn't like separating them. It seems like McAllister has to play whatever happens. Gravenberg, you know, similar. Curtis Jones as the third with Szoboszlai on the bench. And that is not that Szoboszlai's anything particularly wrong. I don't think anyone in the midfield was particularly great on Sunday, but just a freshness. And Zob's pressing from the bench, I think, could be important. So that would be my midfield three. Mac, Grav, and Curtis Jones getting the nod here. The forward line, I mean, the demigod himself. We know he's playing on the right. Left has to be Luis Diaz for me. And I know some people have put differently in the chat panel there, but I think you saw on Sunday, Luis Diaz restored on the left-hand side. Just looked more lively, didn't he? Gets the goal, scrappy as it is, wins the penalty. And he is by nature, a streaky player as well. And away from home, he can just drive the ball up the pitch for you as well. So he starts on the left for me. Which then brings you to, who are you playing in the middle? Because with Cody Gakpo out, it's not going to be Chiesa. It's Nunes or Jota. If Nunes had done better in his substitute appearance, I believe he had a real opportunity here to start. None of them played well second half, but he almost, like a few, just looked a little lost as to where we should be in that second half against Wolves. And for that reason, I do believe it will be Jota starting. So that is the front three for me. Diaz on the left, Salah on the right, naturally, and Jota through the middle. There's also a lot of talk, isn't there, at the moment around Darwin moving on, the Saudi bids, all those types of things. So I'm just struggling to see him starting here. It wouldn't surprise me I've been swithering on it, as I said. I don't say that with great confidence. We won't have long to wait to find out. Or FC there saying Bradley, Canate, Vividi and Costa, same back line as me. This is a Bosla instead of McAllister for him. Salah, Nunes and Jota, and Diaz to get the rest there. Interesting to see if it is that. And the final thing, the predictions. What will be the score and the scorers from this one? I am predicting ultimately a scrappy 2-1. I think there'll be maybe a few. We'll ride our luck a little bit. We'll have to bite our nails a few times. I expect Villa to score, as they usually do. They've got good attackers there, but they will give us chances. And I do believe we'll get a couple of goals here. It's maybe just on, can we only concede one? And I can't get that out of my head. Maybe that is heart overhead, but 2-1. I'm going. Shouts for 3-1 and other scores in the chat panel. We will see what tomorrow night brings, isn't it? 7:30. Don't get caught out again by the slightly earlier kickoff. Champions League kickoff at 8. So this is moved slightly different time as agreed with the Premier League. So it's a 7:30 kickoff at Villa Park, GMT. Let's hope there's no injuries. And by hook or by crook, let's hope the Reds are 10 points clear at the top of the table when it's all said and done. But there we go, ladies and gents. Tuesday, the 18th of February. That was another post-conference presser for Anfield Index.